You are listening to Redefining Disability, an adaptive sports podcast brought to you by Move United. I am your host, Sean Butcher, and I have the privilege of serving as the editor of Move United magazine, the nation's leading adaptive sports publication. Each week, tune in to hear how sports have made it possible for our nation's adaptive athletes, training tips from the best coaches and program leaders, and news on the latest technology, equipment, and trends in the industry. Josh Pauls was born without a tibia in both legs and had them amputated at 10 months old. At age 8, he would be introduced to the game of sled hockey. Within 8 years of first trying out the sport, he was called up to his first World Championship team. Pauls made his Paralympic debut at the 2010 Paralympic Winter Games in Vancouver, where he was the youngest player on the team at age 17. He would later serve as captain for the U.S. sled hockey team at the 2018 and 2022 Paralympic Games. In fact, Pauls is the only sled hockey player to win 4 Paralympic gold medals. He is the author of Lessons Learned, My Journey to the Podium, and hopes to be a professional hockey coach when his sled hockey career is finished. Let's chat with him. So Josh, I thought we'd start, we're obviously going to talk a lot about the sport of sled hockey, but I thought we would start by just talking a little bit about you and, how I know at 10 months old, you underwent both legs amputated. So how did you get introduced to adaptive sports?
Yeah, I think you kind of let off right. Legs were amputated at 10 months old. So if I was going to find a sport, it probably had to be an adaptive one. My parents were hockey fans growing up. And so that was something that kind of got me into it. I remember watching my dad watch a hockey game and I started asking him questions. And, even when I first started playing hockey, I had I would play in the yard with my cousins. You're just playing like a regular kid, just trying to find something that works. Standing up ice skating was never really a possibility for me. So then, we found sled hockey. I tried it out, probably about 30 minutes from where I live, and the team was a little bit too far for me to travel to. So we had to kind of put that on the back burner. That was around when I was 8. And then when I was around 10, a team opened up in my area a lot closer. And so my parents said, hey, why don't you give it one more shot? See if it's something you want to do. I really wanted to be a goalie. Don't know why. And I'm glad that they told me I was too fast for it because it's worked out okay. And so, that was kind of my introduction to sled hockey, to adaptive sports. I remember watching my stepmom's friend, he plays wheelchair basketball, and I remember going to watch a game and I was just like, no, this sport's too violent for me. I'm going to go with hockey.
Yeah, wait a minute. Let's back up on that one.
But I think it makes sense. In wheelchair basketball, they're flipping over and they're wearing like a glorified t-shirt. At least I have pads on in hockey.
That's
At
true.
least that's how my 10-year-old brain thought of it.
And you're lower to the ground. Is that what it is?
Exactly. I don't have far to fall.
That's exactly. And so what was that? So you were about 10 when you picked it back up. What was that program that opened up that's closer to you?
Yeah, so that was the Woodbridge Warriors out of Woodbridge, New Jersey. We played a lot. It used to be the Woodbridge Warriors. Then the New York Rangers sponsored us, and then the Woodbridge Warriors took it back over. Or they just changed back to the Warriors, and they've been a lot of different things. But both me and Jack Wallace, another player on our national team, now have both come from that program.
Yeah, I was going to say New Jersey has some good programming and good players coming out of that. Why do you think that
it must be something in the water.
And so is that program still around?
I believe they are. I don't think they're as competitive, but they still do have, I think they both have a sled and special hockey program too.
Oh, nice. And so when did you realize, obviously because you had the family connection to hockey, when did you realize it was something that you wanted to do more than just recreationally?
See, that's a good question because I don't really know. I think it was probably when I was starting to be told I was kind of good at it. I went to the national development camp, which was for the top 60 kind of up and coming players. Nobody on the national team really goes. Now we have a couple, but they're more the younger players. And so I went my first year. I was probably one of the worst players at the camp. At least my coach the next year told me, it's last year you were really bad and this year you're really good. So it was awesome to see your improvement. I was like, I didn't realize it was that bad last year, but okay. But it's that tough love that kind of helps you frame oh, well, if he didn't say that, it means he actually, cared a little bit about me and, cared enough to see my progression. So that was really cool to kind of have those influences. And I made the junior national team in the 0809 season, or sorry, 0708 season. And then the next year I got called up to the national team. And so that was kind of a whirlwind experience for being 15.
Yeah, and I know you were at 17, you were the youngest Paralympian in 2010, right? At least on the U.S. team.
In 2010, yes, I was. We did have one guy. We've had plenty of guys younger since then, and even before me. But in 2010, I was the youngest member of that team, so that was pretty cool to not allow a single goal in 5 games of the Paralympics.
Yeah, exactly. So four Paralympians later and four Paralympic gold medals later, how has the sport evolved?
Oh my! I mean, we only have 30 minutes, so let's get our history hats on. No, I mean, I think so much has evolved. Like first, like the equipment. Like when I look back and watch it, some of the founders of our sport play in 2002. The guys that won the first gold medal in the sport that really showed us that something like that was possible. Especially to do it on home soil was really awesome. But like the equipment's really changed. It's gotten lighter. Like the seats we sit in are starting at the national level are being molded to us rather than just being kind of generic because any, small changes that you can make, like I want my equipment to be one with me. And so I
Mhm.
think like the technology has obviously been huge. But just access to resources, I think, is at least at the national level, like USA Hockey's really done a great job of supporting us and really, you know, funding our team really. And I think that matters because we're able to train, 5 days a week. We're able to skate and not have to worry about getting ice time. And obviously, like we still have to secure it on our own. But I think by having some of those barriers broken down, especially at the Paralympic level, is huge because, so many Paralympians just um, rely on just, funding and because, being disabled is expensive and, sports are expensive and hockey is one of the most expensive too. So I decided to pick all the worst of those, but it's a sport I absolutely love. And, I think we have so many players that are just pushing the sport too. They're pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Like, we have players doing Michigans, right? Like Kelsey DeClaudio on the women's national team did two Michigans in one game in Canada and then did a Michigan in the gold medal game to win the first ever world championship. Like, I mean, there's fun, it's high skill, it's heavy hitting, it's just a blast.
Well, you kind of led into one of my questions in terms of how do you describe it? Because I know that, or I imagine, obviously, as a four-time Paralympic gold medalist, you interact with a lot of younger athletes and other athletes, and so how do you describe the sport if you're trying to recruit someone or get people into the sport?
Well, my recruiting pitch probably isn't as nice as it needs to be. Usually I tell people, hey, you got to learn to suck at it for a little bit because everybody does. Like it is a very difficult sport to pick up. Just the way like the blades are set up and just the coordination, you got to be able to basically pat your head and rub your stomach at the same time
Oh yeah.
if you're trying to like skate and handle the puck at the same time. So, I think that's one of the things like you got to embrace the challenge. Like it's not going to be easy. You're not going to be whipping around the first time, or at least most people aren't unless you're like a prodigy. But like I think you got to be willing to deal with that adversity, to deal with that failure. And a lot of people like to compare success and failure. I think failure is the building blocks to success. So for me, like you got to be okay to struggle a little bit, but know that like you have a whole community that's willing to back you up and help literally pick you back up if you fall down.
Yeah, that would be a tough sales pitch that when you start out with saying you got to learn to suck at it first.
Yes, but normally I lead with, hey, it's a combination of hockey, Nordic skiing, and bumper cars. So that usually gets them interested, and then I really bring them down a notch after that.
There you go. That's the better hook. You
Yeah,
start with the first one first, or that one first. And
exactly.
so, what is the landscape like for, just folks who, not at your level, obviously, not at the elite level, not at the Paralympic level, international level, but what does the landscape look like for just, maybe a young kid who's, 14 like you were, obviously at one point, wanting to play the sport, wanting to get into the sport?
Oh man, you got to go to USA Hockey's website and find a team, like, or just Google. Like, there's tons of Facebook groups. Like, I mean, like Google sled hockey and the city where you live or a major city near you, and find a team. Like there's hundreds of teams throughout the country. There's competitive programs, there's recreational. Many teams have a little bit of both. Like I know here in St. Louis, we have a recreational team, but also a competitive team.
Mm.
So, or at least players that are trying to play competitively. So like there's a way to balance it. And I think that's the best part of sled hockey is, it's just like hockey. You have so many players that, play beer league, adult hockey that just want to stay in touch, stay in the locker room, play the game they love. Like you can just play to get active to burn a couple calories to make your Saturday mornings just go hang out with friends on Saturday morning. But there's also that elite level that I've been able to reach and stay at for a while, and you get to there's also that ability, right? There's that other development path. And I think that everybody says hockey is for everybody. Hockey is for everyone, and you can play it however you want. I think that's the best part about the programs we have in this country are they can be tailored to what you want. If you want to be competitive, there's competition out there. There are camps to help you get better. And even if you're recreational, we can help you get better in the regional camps. It's just a matter of, where you want to take the sport. And I think that's the best part of it is it's very, very self-driven.
Yeah. And you mentioned, of course, equipment and how it's, changed obviously a lot in the last, decade plus, or 2 decades even. Um, let's break it down in terms of what is needed. Like if there's a young, athlete out there wanting to get in the sport, what do they need to have? What equipment wise, what kind of resources or equipment would they need to get?
Yes, I'm happy to answer that question. But like, I think players and potential people want to know like teams have equipment for you to start out to try. Like, so this isn't going to be typically at least most programs I know you're not going to have to get equipment right away.
No.
So if you want to try it, like there's going to be extra sleds, extra sticks, extra helmets, the basics that you need to kind of get going, and you can try it. It's not like you need to come fully outfitted for the most part for most teams, but obviously it's worth checking with your local one. But as far as like equipment, like the sled obviously is the number one. It's going to be customized a little bit to you. And by customized, I mean like where the blades sit, where the buckets sit, you want to be balanced in it. And so like you can work with, whoever you have around you to kind of modify that. But if you're just getting in, then you're just getting in, no problem. You need two sticks, one left hand, one right hand. They got to have metal picks on the end. Those are just the teeth that you kind of dig in to
Hmm.
skate. And then after that, I mean, you really just basically need a helmet and some gloves, and elbow pads are probably good because you're going to fall down. Like I said, you're going to struggle a little bit and you want to protect those elbows because if you don't, trust me, I've fallen when a pad slipped and it's not a pleasant experience. So, but other than that, like it's a regular hockey gear. So you need like competitively, we need a chest protector. Some people wear hockey pants if they don't have a sled that kind of conforms to them. Shin guards and hockey boots are a must. So any player, if you play competitively, some players wear sneakers, but those aren't very protective, especially in the rough and tumble game of sled hockey.
Hmm.
So a lot of players will go find a cheap pair of skates and get the bottom of the skate taken off. So the boot and all like the protective material they can wear on their foot, but they don't have to have the extra skate that they don't need. So I've never had to deal with that. I don't feet, so my bag's quite a bit smaller.
That's true. So you kind of, yeah. So in terms of padding, you talked a little bit about some of the padding that I know that you need. So definitely elbow, shin guards, chest
Mhm.
protector, of course, the helmet for your noggin and your head.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and then that's basically it in terms of padding, and and maybe some of the, like you said, some of the feet if you need feet guards or shoot shin guards.
Yep. And I mean, like the gloves are huge. Like, just
Mm.
because like we use them so much and they rub on the tape a lot of times. And so it really wears down the palms and the fingers. So like sled hockey players typically go through more gloves every season. But for any, sled hockey players that are listening or any potential ones that are going to join, get a couple pairs of gloves and rotate them and dry them fully before you use them next. It really helps them last a lot longer. So just a way to try to save it. I
Wow.
know, once I'm not on the national team anymore, I'm going to have to start buying my own stuff. So I got to learn all these tips and tricks.
That's true. I never even thought about that. Yeah, get a second pair so that you can alternate. Yeah, that's a
Yep.
great advice from a pro. That's that's something
Oh, and there's nothing worse than playing with wet gloves. Like nobody likes it. It's not fun, not pleasant, and it like ruins them more. So like, why bother?
yeah. And let's break down just kind of the a standard game. Like it's like
Mhm.
when and let's focus maybe on the local or club level versus like the national or international level. But like,
Mhm.
how many people are on the ice per team at any given time? What's the length of the of the game? Just kind of go through those elements a little bit.
Yep. So pretty much every standard ice hockey rule applies. So it's going to be 5-on-5 plus goalies. So I guess technically 6-on-6, but it's an open debate in the hockey community if goalies count as people or not. The periods are 15 minutes typically, like in any USA hockey sanction game, it's 15 minutes. You usually get a minute or two between periods for a quick break, and then it's kind of right back onto it. Yeah, all the rules are the same. Like you can't like slash trip. I mean, it's hard to trip somebody in sled, but I have seen it done.
Hmm.
There's a couple extra penalties. So there's teeing, which it used to be kind of you can't take your sled and hit somebody at a 90-degree angle, but it's evolving to the point where you really can't use your sled only for physical contact. Like you got to make body contact as well. Just because, people with feet are able to kind of give you a bump with their foot. It really throws you off balance, especially if you don't have legs like me. And so, it's just an easy way for players to interfere without actually interfering sometimes. But other than that, like all the penalties are the same. You still can't throw the puck out of play. There's offsides, there's icing. They all are pretty similar. The only real difference is we play 15-minute periods instead of 20, like you would see in like the NHL and the Olympics.
Okay, that makes sense. And you talked a little bit about you know obviously you having no legs, so you're kind of naturally top heavy, right? So how
Mm-hmm.
how do athletes like you and athletes with maybe either single or double amputees balance that in terms of on the ice?
Yeah, I mean, sled hockey is kind of unique in that like your disability kind of determines how you play a little bit. Like
Mm,
obviously your skill set does, but like if I wasn't very quick or my skating ability weren't as good as it is, like I don't know that I'd have the same success. Like my game's built around needing speed and trying to keep people off balance. But I guess we do have like bilateral amputees that play a little bit slower and play differently. So but really it's gonna come down to your equipment. Like my blades are kind of more directly under like my butt on my sled. Whereas like somebody with legs, if they have two especially, like their blades are going to be more like under their thigh, maybe closer almost to their knee bend, just because they need to kind of balance that, weight in the middle, where
mhm.
basically all of my weight is kind of right on top of my blades and kind of right where my legs go. So my blades are a little bit further back, but that's kind of really how we kind of change. But like you also got to realize like single amputees and people with two legs are going to have a longer sled. Like mine, I keep it the minimum length because there's nothing out there to really do anything with, so I want to be able to weave in and out of people as best I can. Where other guys, like we have two defensemen, Jack Wallace and Noah Grove, they're some of the best in the game, and they both are very different. Like Jack is like 6'2", 6'3", like is a big old dude, and he really can use his sled to kind of steer you where he wants you to go. Where Noah is is smaller. I think he's under 6 foot for sure, and he's much quicker, but he still uses that leg, but he uses it in a much different way. And it's just really interesting to see how different players play just and use the tools that they have given to them or that are available.
Yeah, and I think we almost alluded to the varying disabilities that are allowed in terms of the sled hockey sport. So obviously, in one given team, you may have single amp, double amp. You may have someone with a spinal cord injury. What other disabilities are like classifiable within the sled hockey sport?
Yeah, I remember doing a podcast a couple of years ago and they asked like because classification is like a really big topic among athletes, like in a lot of sports. And they were like, all right, what issues do you have with classification? I was like, I don't know. You're either disabled enough or you're not. Like it's basically anybody with a lower body disability. And obviously, like there's a classification process, but it's either you're good or you're not. Like it's not
Mm,
like wheelchair basketball where there's a point system or where like you can have certain disabilities on the ice at any one time. I think the way that hockey's played is a little bit different, is obviously very different than basketball, where those substitutions are a little more structured. Where in hockey, you're constantly changing lines, possibly every minute if you're actually on it.
hmm.
And so, like, have to manage that and to have the infrastructure to manage a point system, I think would be just kind of difficult on the IPC side, just thinking about what they have to do. But for us, like, it's just if you're if you have a lower body disability, you're good to go. And I think that's something that, we all kind of bond over is we're all kind of in it, and there's no real, everybody has like strengths and weaknesses, and it's just kind of how you use them.
Yeah, and that's a good point, and that's a good distinction and delineation between, sled hockey and, like you said, wheelchair basketball, wheelchair softball, where there is a maximum point structure or maximum points that are allowed on the court or the ice or the field at any given time. So it's a good distinction to make. And anything else that like someone who's just thinking about the game would need to know, either from a rules perspective or how you play perspective or what you need to know perspective.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to know. I think one of the things, the big differentiator is we don't skate backwards. So like you'll see NHL or, even just stand-up hockey players skating backwards. We don't really do that. But I think like it's kind of interesting. Like I'm just kind of a little bit of a hockey nerd. Like it's interesting to watch NHL defensemen or seem to be skating backwards less. Like they're pivoting to kind of skate forward and angle more like we would do. And I'm like, all right, I guess they're just watching our games and, picking stuff out of our playbook. But I think like you see like in sled hockey, it's much more like flowy and like there's more angling, but like a quick change in direction like really has big consequences because like sleds are much harder to turn than just somebody that can stand up, stop, and then get going the other direction. Like everybody kind of has to do a big, I don't want to say big looping turn. You can turn pretty quick and pretty tight, but like you still got to turn your whole thing.
Right.
And so like whenever there's a turnover, like a lot of times it's a breakaway and like it's you on the goalie, and that's the exciting part. So I think there's a lot of excitement about that. Like I said, yeah, not skating backwards is a big one. But otherwise, like it's really just it's hockey. So I think a lot of skills are transferable. So if anybody's coached hockey and you want to get into sled hockey, like it's a pretty easy transition. Observe a couple practices and you'll be right at home. But if you're a kid or even just a local player trying to get better, work on both hands. Like work on using them equally because that makes such a big difference when you can put the puck on the side of your body that makes the most sense, that you can put your body between somebody that's trying to get it and the puck, right? So I think if any young players are listening, like obviously you want to work on skating. Skating's the name of the game, but you got to make sure both hands are very adequate as far as like stick handling, passing, shooting, all that, all the stick skills.
Yeah, and most of us are, dominant in one side or the other, right? Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
left-handed. So like I don't know how much I could do with my right hand. So but making sure that you build up to that is pretty critical because if obviously the defense would know if I'm only good with my left hand, that gives me a disadvantage, right?
Absolutely. And if I know you only got one good hand, you best bet I'm taking that thing away.
And so what, in an introductory clinic, what kind of, drills or exercises would you lead newbies in?
Man, I mean, we'll get skating. Like, you kind of want to like lead them in, just kind of get moving, get the wind flowing. You want to get people turning. You want to, help people learn like where they should have their hands. Like when you're skating, you want to have your hands at the top of your sticks because you want to get as full of a stride as possible. If your hands are lower down, you're not really going to get as good of a stride. But if I'm handling the puck, my hand can't be at the top because that's where my blade is to handle the puck itself. So, like it's about when you have your hands at different spots. It's, getting comfortable in a sled. And, like I said, it's a lot of getting back up. It's how do you get yourself back up? Can you push yourself up with just one arm? Do you have to maybe like lean over and cross over one stick and kind of push up with both? There's a ton of techniques on how to get yourself back up, but actually if like I can teach somebody how to get up in their first ice session, like they're going to improve that much quicker because they aren't sitting there on the ice waiting for me to help them up whenever they're trying to learn something new.
Yeah. And and is what is the biggest challenge when it comes to that? Is it, balancing? Is it being able to get yourself back up? Because obviously you are going to get knocked over or fall over. So what is the
Mhm.
biggest challenge that you see with new players?
I think new players getting back up and just kind of staying balanced in their sled. Like a lot of times, like when you're new, you don't realize how tight you want to be. Like you want to mash everything down. You want to get super tight. Like you kind of want that skin to be a little squished, like not obviously blue or purple or nothing, but like you want to be as tight as possible. Because if you fall and you shift in your bucket, even if you get back up and you're shifted, you're not going to be flat. So like if I ever help somebody up, I'm holding their sled. I'm saying, make sure your butt's flat because I'm not letting you go. Otherwise, you're just going right back over, and we're going to be right back where we started. So, like, that's something that I think is the hardest. But like, part of it has to do with blade width. Like, blades that are really wide are much more stable. But like having them so far apart, it makes it harder to get back up onto them when you fall. So it's a kind of double-edged sword. Like you want to give people more balance so they can stay upright, but when they fall, like they're going to really fall and have a tough time getting back up. So it's kind of adapting people to get their blades as close as possible, as quick as possible. And I say as close as possible, I mean probably within like 2 or 3 inches, because anything under probably an inch is probably just diminishing returns. Like you don't want your blades too tight, otherwise you're just going to be falling over left and right.
And I'm glad you brought up the blades and the size of blades because, I mean, obviously I assume that there's some restrictions, but there's also some flexibility, again, depending on your disability and other factors. So,
Mhm.
how is that determined on on an individual level?
Yeah, so I think blade length is pretty standardized. I think that we have had guys try longer blades, but that's not really anything we really experiment with.
Hmm.
The width is kind of where we go. So like right now, I play I think about an inch and a half blades apart, and that gives me enough stability, but it also gives me the ability to kind of jump up on that blade and get into a tight turn if I need to. But also like the cut of the blade is something that people deal with. Like I use a cut called an inch and a half. It's just the hollow of the blade, and it gives me the ability to kind of slide on the blade a little bit more when I'm flat, as opposed to kind of really gripping into the ice when I get onto that edge. But that's obviously personal preference. That's getting into real advanced stuff once you get to the Paralympic level. Blade width is really like where the name of the game is. I'd say if you can try to get to 2 inches apart, that'll give you a good balance, maybe 2 to 3 inches apart. If you're first starting out, that'll give you a good balance of being able to get up onto that blade to kind of feel the sensation of turning and what it feels like to be on that edge and to ride it through a turn, but also be able to pop yourself back up if you fall over because you constantly want to be pushing those limits of how long can I stay on this blade? How far can I go? Like that's hockey, that's life, right? You're testing your limits and seeing what you can accomplish and then trying it even better the next time.
Yeah, and I imagine as you elevate your level of play, you decrease that blade width, I imagine.
Absolutely. Like I started out probably, yeah, 3, 4 inches apart. And then, yeah, now I'm down. I mean, I probably went down to about an inch. But then I wanted to go back wider just because, like, at some point you lose stability and it doesn't matter how quick I can turn if I'm constantly on my back.
Right. And Josh, talk a little bit about the national team as it looks right now in terms of like how would you define the U.S. team? In terms of its style of play. I know as sled hockey can be obviously an offensive sport or a defensive sport. So kind of just talk a little bit about the national team a little bit.
Yeah, man, where do I start? I mean, I think you alluded to it. We're the defending gold medalists going into the Paralympics. For the Paralympics, we recently took back our world title from Canada at the World Championships in Buffalo in June.
Hmm.
After losing the year before, so I think that was a nice little wake up call. I think we'd had a lot of success recently, and I think that, I mean, obviously nobody likes to lose. Losing a world championship sucks even more, but I
Particularly
think
to
it was a really good
Canada,
wake up
right?
call. Exactly. I mean, they're our rivals, but like I think it was a good wake up call just for me too to like realize, hey, like quit being complacent. Like not everything's always, sunshine and roses. Like you got to deal with some adversity every once in a while. But that's something that I went through early in my career where we weren't as dominant. Like we were perennially a bronze medal level team,
Mm.
and then we turned it around to like with players that changed our culture, and I think that was huge. And so, anyway, the national team now, I think we had tryouts in September. So we're taking 20 players to a tournament in Czech Republic in October. So we're going to kind of make the team will make the final cuts after that. And we'll get down to our 17-man roster.
Mm.
One thing about the Paralympics and World Championships and big games is we can carry 17. We can only dress 15 per game. So we'll have two guys sit in every game. So that's something that makes it even more competitive. And I think that's kind of what makes us who we are. Like we're a physical team. But we're a high skill team. I think there's no doubt about that. We like to play the game in a fun way. I mean, our coach gives us a lot of leeway in terms of being creative, and I think that plays to our strengths. Like we're fast, we're creative, we move the puck in ways that some people might might be wondering why the heck we're doing it, but then it works and everybody's like, okay, that makes sense. Like Brody Roybal, I tell him all the time he has the highest per capita of shots that I don't know why he's shooting, and then it goes in the back of the net. Like, I mean, he wound up from the corner one time and it went into the net after he rang it off the guy's helmet. Like, it just like we have some incredibly skilled players, but like I truly believe it's our work ethic that separates us. Like we have some of the best players in the world that are willing to work to be the best players in the world, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And you've been a two-time captain of the team as well. What is your thought or outlook, beyond 2026? Obviously, I know that you're aiming to represent the U United States for a fifth Paralympic game and fifth gold medal. What is your outlook after that?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I mean, I think it's kind of crazy. Like, if I make the team this year, it'll be my 18th season. So I think I'm gonna have to start asking for like voting privileges in USA Hockey. Not that they actually have to listen to me. I just want to be able to vote. Um, but I think like I don't know. It's kind of crazy to think. Like I think we're just trying to get through the year, and we'll see how it goes. Like I love being a part of this team. Like they're the most fun guys. They're my brothers. Like it's so exciting to see and to know that 2034 is on the horizon in Salt Lake. So I think it's really exciting. We got a lot of excitement going for the next couple Paralympics. So I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. 2026, and then 8 years later, it's back in the United States, which is exciting. And
Mhm.
I know that at one point in time, I read that you want to also be a hockey coach when you do reach the end of your playing days. Is that still kind of your goal?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be cool. I mean, I know I have a lot of knowledge and I'd like to give it back. I mean, I'm working. They're gonna put me to start directing the national development camps over the summer for sled hockey, so that'll be a good way to kind of stay more in an admin role, but also I'll be able to get on the ice during those camps. So like excuse me, pardon me. That'll really help me as far as like coaching and getting my foot in the door, but also just staying involved. Like, I mean, we go around during the summer coaching camps all the time, and so I think that's something that just kind of comes naturally. So we'll see.
Yeah. And I know that there are some sports that, are I won't say challenged or challenging in terms of seeing their numbers. Do you see the future of sled hockey as being bright? Do you see that crop of, players that will follow after you in the space now? What's that look like right now?
Yeah, I think we got a lot to be excited about. I mean, obviously, like the women's side is just popping off right now.
Hmm.
Like they had their first ever world championship trying to get to 2030. Like they're going to add a couple more teams. I feel like here in the next couple of years, like sled hockey's trending well for the women's side. I think for the guys' side is the same. Like I mean, C pool's growing. B pool is had a great tournament. I think a couple weeks ago. Our A pool is as strong as it's ever been. I think. And I think like even in just the US, I think we just have such a crop of just solid young men leading our team. Like guys like, Liam Cunningham, Caden Beasley, Malik Jones, Evan Nichols, like those guys are people that are, I say they're new. Like, I mean, a couple of them have only been playing on the team for a couple of years, but like seeing like what their ceiling could be, like, I mean, I've seen their floor right now. Like I can't imagine what their ceiling's going to be. So like, I definitely had the thought to not come back after Beijing. Just four Paralympic gold medals, like that was enough for me. But I feel like there was some unfinished business, and I think like this crop of young players really has me excited that if I wanted to make that decision, I'd be okay with it.
Mm. Mm. And in terms of obviously we talked a little bit about the difference between elite and club and recreational. You probably, most of I think all of our Team USA players play with a club team. So what's your club team? I know you played in New Jersey and came out of New Jersey with Jack. Where do you play? You're in St. Louis now, so I assume you play with the DASA team?
Yeah, I played with Dasta for a while. I'm not playing with them this year just because of the crazy schedule and everything. I don't know. It'll kind of depend to see like if I want to keep coming back and playing club. So it'll
Okay.
depend.
Yeah. And then lastly, I understand that you also authored a book. So tell me a little bit about that with the time we have left.
Yeah, absolutely. I did. It's called My Lessons Learned: My Journey to the Podium. I wrote it shortly after the 2018 games. I think I wrote it around 2019 into 2020, so around those times. Yeah, I felt like I had a lot to talk about. Like I had a lot in my life and a lot through, being a Paralympian, starting so young, getting cut right before the Vancouver games just to make it back. Like I think there were a lot of lessons that I could share with a lot of people that would help them, not just in sports, but in life, because, sports have just taught me life lessons. Like anything I've learned in sports, I've been able to apply. And I think that's the coolest part. So, I sell that. That's available on Amazon. It's also available through me. If you're just looking for a copy there. So, it's something that I'm really proud of. It was something that, I can look back on and be like, oh, there'd be a couple things I'd like to change, or I probably wouldn't have said this, but once it's in print, it's done, it's ready, it's there. Right. So, it's something I can definitely be proud of.
And then lastly, what piece of advice would you give to, a person with a disability who, may not be overly or engaged in sport right now?
Oh man. Try everything. Like I only tried like one or two things. I tried basketball, I was like, no, thank you. And then hockey was like my thing. But like I was fortunate in that way to be like, oh, like this is my sport. Like try everything you can. If you're a parent of a child with a disability, get them in sport as early as possible. Like it's just a good way to stay active, to stay a member of the community, to burn some calories. Like, I mean, I ambulate, so I'm walking in prosthetics, so I burn a lot, but like, I don't know, it doesn't mean I always want to burn stuff walking. I want to chase a puck around the ice sometimes. I need a little carrot. I can't just go around a track. But kudos to the people that can. Like, I think that's just you just got to try everything because you don't know what you like until you try it, and you don't know what you don't like until you try it.